I don't think anything can ever really prepare you for the moment when the place you've called home your entire life suddenly feels strange, when the walls seem to whisper something you were never supposed to hear, and the air carries a tension so heavy you can feel it pressing onto your skin. I remember standing outside my house that afternoon, my suitcase still in my hand, my phone buzzing from a message I hadn't even processed yet. I wasn't supposed to be home. I wasn't supposed to walk through that front door for another 3 days. But life has a way of pushing you off the path you planned and putting you exactly where you weren't expected. And sometimes, like in my case, that's the only way you ever learn the truth. I had gone on a short school trip, nothing dramatic, nothing unusual. Just 3 days away. Lectures, some hiking, the typical things they say help build character. But midway through the second day, one of the organizers had quietly pulled me aside to let me know a landslide had blocked the return route we were meant to take later. They were sending a transport to get half of us out early to avoid complications. I didn't think much of it. Honest. I simply packed my bag, texted Mom that I'd be home earlier than planned, and assumed she'd be happy. She didn't reply, but I figured she was busy with work or errands. It wasn't until I stood at the door, hearing muffled voices inside, that something felt wrong. Not dangerous, not frightening, just wrong. Like a conversation that wasn't meant to be interrupted. My sister, my younger sister, Kara, was speaking in a tone I had never heard from her before. Not angry, not sad, something else, something shaky. My mother kept shushing her, telling her to calm down, telling her it wasn't the right time, telling her they would figure out how to talk to me soon. I froze, my hand hovering over the knob. And I don't know why, but I didn't open it. Not immediately. Instead, I leaned in closer, my heart pounding so loudly in my ears I could barely hear anything else. Then my father's voice cut through the house, firm but tired in a way that made my stomach twist. "We don't have a choice anymore. We have to make space for her, and he'll understand. He'll have to." My chest tightened. Make space for her? Who was her? And why would I have to understand something I wasn't even aware of? I pushed the door open slowly. 3 heads snapped toward me. 3 expressions froze. My mom's shock, my dad's panic, and my sister's wide-eyed guilt. "You're home?" Mom whispered like she'd seen a ghost. "Yeah," I said, setting my bag down. "Got sent back early." I tried to smile, to sound normal, to pretend I hadn't heard anything. "What's going on?" Silence. Not a confused silence. Not a, "we're in the middle of something," silence. But the kind of silence that forms when everyone realizes the truth is about to break free, whether they want it to or not. My dad cleared his throat. "We need to talk." Those 4 words can change the temperature of a room. I felt mine drop instantly. I sat down slowly as they exchanged glances, those silent communications parents have when they're about to say something heavy, something planned, something rehearsed. But then Kara did something that cut through all of it. She stood up abruptly and said, "No, you guys aren't doing this. Not like this." I remember staring at her. My quiet sister, my reserved sister, the one who avoided confrontation unless it was truly necessary. She stepped toward me, her face trembling, and I saw immediately that she had been crying. "Your room?" Her voice cracked. "They're giving your room to me." I blinked. A part of me actually wanted to laugh, not because it was funny, but because it felt absurd. "Why would you need my room? You already have yours." She shook her head slowly. "Not anymore." Mom jumped in then, her voice soft like she was handling fragile glass. "Sweetheart, your sister. She needs a different space, a safer space. And we thought, your father and I, we thought that moving you into the basement and letting her have your room would help her." "Help her?" I repeated. "Help her with what?" But they wouldn't answer. They exchanged glances again. Those silent, painful, heavy glances. And it was Kara, once again, who broke first. "Because I'm not okay," she whispered. My heart dropped. I hadn't expected those words. I don't think anyone ever expects them from someone they love. She took a shaky breath, and then everything she'd been holding inside began spilling out. About her anxiety, about panic attacks I never knew she had, about nights she woke up gasping for air and mornings she couldn't convince herself to get out of bed. She said her room felt suffocating, that it carried memories she couldn't shake, feelings she couldn't explain. She said she needed a space that felt safe, warm, open, and apparently, that space was mine. I didn't want them to do this behind your back, she cried. I told them to tell you, but they kept waiting because they didn't want to stress you out during your trip. I looked at my parents, confused, overwhelmed, aching from the weight of a truth that hadn't existed for me 5 minutes earlier. Dad rubbed his face. We weren't trying to hide it. We were trying to find the right words. We were going to tell you tonight. But it still didn't click. Not fully. Not until I walked down the hallway toward my room. My hand hesitated on the doorknob, not because I was afraid of what was behind it, but because some part of me already knew I wasn't going to see my room the way I left it. And I was right. My posters were gone. My shelves were empty. My desk had been cleared. Everything personal, everything that made it mine, had been boxed up and stacked neatly in the corner. My bedspread, my favorite one, had been folded and replaced with a floral one that wasn't mine. They had already started converting it. They didn't wait even a day, not even an hour. I felt something inside me tighten. Not anger, not heartbreak. Something deeper. Something like displacement. Like I had walked into a world where my existence had been quietly shifted, relocated, demoted. Mom stepped behind me, her voice trembling. We were going to talk to you before moving things around. But Kara had a breakdown last night. She said she couldn't stay in her room anymore. She begged us. And we panicked. We just started making the change. I didn't speak. Not because I was angry, but because I genuinely didn't know what to feel. My room was more than just a room. It was where I studied, slept, dreamed, hid, recovered, rebuilt myself in moments I didn't share with anyone. And now it looked like a place I didn't belong in anymore. Kara came up behind us slowly. I'm sorry, she whispered. I swear I never wanted to take anything from you. I turned to her then, and for the first time since walking through that front door, I really looked at her. She didn't look like someone trying to steal something. She looked like someone barely holding herself together. Someone who had been carrying invisible weight for far too long. Someone who felt guilty just for needing help. And that's when the frustration inside me softened. Not because I liked what they did, not because I agreed with how they did it, but because I finally understood the why. I walked back to the living room slowly, the three of them behind me. We sat down again, but the atmosphere had shifted. The shock was gone. There was only reality. We should have talked to you, Dad said. We should have trusted you with the truth instead of trying to manage your reaction. Mom nodded, tears forming. Please know that none of this was about choosing between you and your sister. We just reacted, and it wasn't the right way. Kara wiped her face. If you want your room back later, we can figure something out. Right now, I need space that doesn't feel like a trap. That sentence hit me harder than anything else. Not because of what it meant for me, but because of what it revealed about her. I took a long breath before speaking. I'm not mad at you, I said finally. Any of you. But I wish you told me. I wish you trusted me to handle it. And I wish I hadn't had to find out like this. Mom burst into tears then. Not loud, not dramatic, but soft and heartbreaking. She reached out and grabbed my hand. We're sorry. Truly. Dad's voice cracked when he spoke next. If moving into the basement is too much for you, we'll rethink things. Nothing is set in stone. But strangely, I realized it wasn't too much. Not anymore. The shock had turned into clarity, the confusion into understanding, and the displacement into something else entirely. Purpose. Because this wasn't about losing a room. This was about my sister needing support in a way none of us had recognized early enough. I squeezed her hand gently. You can have it. My room, if it helps you. But we're going to do this the right way. Together. No more secrets. Her face broke, and she collapsed into me, hugging me in a way she hadn't in years. Not a sibling hug. Not a polite hug, but a hug that said thank you and I'm sorry and I need you all at once. And for the first time that day, the house no longer felt heavy. It felt honest. Later that night, after things calmed down, I went to the basement to look at the space they had planned for me. It wasn't as bad as I expected. Cooler, quieter, bigger in some ways. Maybe not what I wanted, but maybe what I needed without realizing it. Sometimes life changes feel like loss at first, but sometimes they're simply transitions, doors closing so others can finally open. And in that moment, standing in the dim light of a place I never imagined calling mine, I realized something important. Home isn't defined by a room. It's defined by the people who are willing to fight, break, stumble, apologize, and rebuild with you. My parents didn't handle things perfectly. My sister didn't know how to ask for what she needed, and I didn't see the signs of her suffering until everything broke open. But maybe sometimes that's what it takes. Things breaking so the truth can finally find its way out. And as strange as it sounds, coming home early was the only reason I discovered what my family had been too scared to tell me. If I hadn't walked in at that exact moment, I might not have found out for days, maybe even weeks, and my sister might have continued hiding the depth of her pain. So yes, they took my room, but in exchange, I got something far more valuable back. The truth, the understanding, the closeness we had all quietly drifted away from without noticing. And if losing 4 walls is the price I had to pay to learn what my sister was going through, then it was worth it. Even now, when I close my eyes, I can still see the look she gave me when I told her she could have it. Relief mixed with gratitude, like I had just handed her back a piece of herself she thought was gone forever. And that's when I knew. Sometimes the room you lose isn't really a loss at all. Sometimes it's the beginning of healing, for someone you love more than you realized.